Okay, so Akshay from the YouTube comment section recently said, okay, please feature HP Omen Max 16 RTX 5080. Well, Akshay my boy, you got it. You see, this is probably the most powerful gaming laptop HP has ever produced. It comes with an Intel Core Ultra 9 275HX, NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5080 and 32GB RAM. And something that's literally cool about this laptop is the liquid metal cooling, which HP is calling hybrid metal grease on the CPU. And to further keep this laptop cool, HP has outfitted it with a much better and advanced vapor chamber, which replaces the traditional heatsink. And because of this, I am expecting lower temperatures than before. And with that said, let's begin the Digit Ultimate Gaming Test episode 2 featuring the HP Omen Max 16. So first up, we are testing Valorant, and in it you can see we are keeping the graphics settings at high at 1600p, and as you can see we are getting anywhere between 480 to 500 FPS on average. The gameplay is pretty smooth, there is no lag or stuttering, and Valorant is really the kind of game that benefits from super high FPS. But I pretty much suck at Valorant, so you can see me dying at every given opportunity. Next up is Valorant at 1200p high settings, and even over here as well we are still getting around similar FPS as before. Meaning the FPS is staying between 480 to 500 range, so it is pretty much safe to say that high resolution, at least in Valorant, is really not going to reduce your FPS in any noticeable way. The second game on the list is Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2, and as you can see we are running the game at 1600p first at high settings while keeping the image scaling at DLSS. And here's the kind of performance we can expect. As you can see, I am playing a Vanguard from the White Scars Legion and I am at max level, and we are getting anywhere between 80 to 95 FPS. And considering that this game just came out last year and even managed to make the PS5 and Xbox Series X struggle in terms of performance, I would say that we are performing pretty good here. So when we lower the resolution to 1200p, let's see what kind of performance we can expect. Even when lowering the resolution, the resulting performance increase does not seem too much. I would go as far as to say that it is almost negligible. We are still getting around 80 to 95 FPS on average, so I think it doesn't matter if you are playing the game at 1200p or 1600p, you are going to see similar performance, at least in this case. The third game on the list is GTA 5 Enhanced Edition. It came out very recently on PC and we are going to be running it at 1600p resolution at first, and along with that we are going to keep the graphic settings at high only. And now let's see how the game performs. So instead of the story mode, we are playing GTA Online, and you can see we are easily getting more than 120 FPS, which is really amazing. The gameplay looks smooth, we are not getting any stuttering or lag, and the image quality looks very nice as well. So now let's lower the resolution to 1200p and see what kind of performance we can expect. So right now we are again getting close to 120 FPS, but the FPS seems a bit low on average, and I think that's because we are right now in a more crowded area as opposed to the open area in which we were earlier. But the good thing is that even at this lower resolution, the image quality we are getting is still pretty fantastic. So the next game on the list is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and it is one of our favorite benchmarking tools. So let's put it at 1600p and high settings and see how it performs. And the FPS we are getting seems very high. We are getting around 190 FPS, and we are even seeing the FPS go all the way up to 200 in some cases, which is very nice. So at this point we have been running the laptop for over an hour at least, and because of that I would like to draw your attention to the temperature, and the average temperature seems to be in the 89 degrees Celsius range. Even though the CPU is consuming 70 watts and the GPU is consuming 160 watts on average, which shows us that both these things are running at high power and are being utilized properly. And in the end the laptop scored around 191 FPS. So next up, at 1200p high settings, let's see what kind of FPS we can expect. And the FPS has easily gone above 200 FPS in this case, and the temperatures too, you can see, are touching 100 degrees and then coming down drastically. But overall the laptop is still holding its own very well. There is no stuttering or lag in this thing, and in the end the laptop scored around 214 FPS, which is truly amazing. The next game on the list is Gears 5, and the footage you are seeing on screen is running at 1600p and high settings, and as is visible it is running very well. The average FPS is easily staying around 190 FPS, and there is absolutely no hint of lag or stuttering, and it is one of those games like Warhammer where once the chaos starts happening on screen it can really tank up the FPS. And speaking of which, the HP Omen Max scored 198 FPS, which is very good. Next up, here's the game running at 1200p, and we are trying to push the FPS even more further, as right now the FPS seems to be pretty much the same as before. But let's wait and see what the final result is before making any final conclusion. And the result is 190 FPS. So the RTX 5080 is scoring less FPS at lower resolution and more FPS at higher resolution. Now this can happen due to multiple reasons. It could be game optimization, or more likely in this case it could be driver issues. Since RTX 5080 is a new card and there haven't been any major updates to its firmware, it could very well be that this GPU can fail to engage its full power at lower resolution. The next game on the list is Civilization 6, and this is one title which is heavily dependent on the CPU, and at first we are running it at 1600p at high settings, and we are keeping the VSync off, and let's see how it performs. So the current average FPS seems to be around 270, and overall the game is running pretty smoothly. And Civilization 6, as you all know, is really heavily dependent on the CPU because there's a lot of logic behind the game. There are a lot of decisions involved and even a lot of AI in there as well. And the Core Ultra 9 seems to be doing a pretty good job over here. And in the end, the laptop scored 283 FPS, which is insane for such a demanding game. Now let's see how the game performs at 1200p at high settings. And I think we are getting even more than 270 FPS, which is really good. Overall, I think you are going to have a blast playing Civilization 6 on the HP Omen Max 16, and in the end the laptop scored around 296 FPS, so almost 300 FPS in Civilization 6, and that's just ridiculous. So the next game on list is Cyberpunk 2077, and at first we are going to keep the resolution at 1600p and graphics at high preset. With ray tracing off, here's how the game performs. So in the club scene we are getting around 70 FPS on average, which seems a bit low, but considering there's no major frame drops, so that's pretty good. And now that we are outside, we are still getting similar FPS, but again the good thing is that there aren't any major frame drops. And in the end the laptop scored 78 FPS on average. Now let's see what kind of improvement we see once we lower the resolution to 1200p. So right off the bat, I think we are getting more FPS on average, as it is now in triple digits, which is very nice. And overall the 1% lows have also improved by lowering the resolution. And in the end the laptop scored 118 FPS, which is a huge improvement. Now next up is Borderlands 3, and at first we are keeping the resolution at 1600p and then we are keeping the settings at high, and let's see how this laptop performs. So right off the bat we are getting around 150 FPS on average, and with the CPU temperatures being around 80 degrees, which is pretty good. Moreover, the CPU and GPU utilization in both cases is pretty high, and now this goes to show that this laptop has enough power and enough cooling to make sure all the hardware performs at full power. And in the end the laptop scored 150 FPS. Next up, let's run the game at 1200p at high settings to see how it performs. So as you can see right now, we are seeing around a 20 frame increase in total FPS, and we are getting to see around 170 FPS on average. The CPU and GPU temps remain as usual as before, so there's no change in that, and the 1% lows have obviously been improved. And in the end the laptop scored 167 FPS. So the next game on the list is AC Valhalla, and as you can see we are first running it at 1600p at high settings with VSync off, and here's the result. So right off the bat we are getting more than 150 FPS, but in between we are also seeing some stuttering along with some really high CPU temperatures as well. And in the end, the laptop scored 146 FPS with some stuttering. And now let's test the game at 1200p at high settings and see how it performs. So even right now, although we are seeing more than average high FPS, we are still seeing random frame drops on the screen. And I think at this point, this again could be either a driver or an optimization issue. Mainly because the CPU as well is running pretty hot over here compared to other games that we tested. In the end, the laptop scored 180 FPS. Next up is Metro Exodus, which is again a very demanding title. First, we are going to be running the game at 1440p high settings with DLSS and ray tracing off and see how it performs. So right off the bat, you can see that we are getting 150 to 160 FPS on average. But what's really interesting here is that just like AC Valhalla, over here too, the CPU temps are pretty high, but there is no frame drops or stuttering in sight. In fact, the game is holding 1% close quite well and overall just running very smoothly. And in the end, the laptop scored 154 FPS. And at 1200p at high settings, we saw the same stuff where the temperatures are still pretty high, but the gameplay still remains smooth and the average FPS and 1% close are obviously better than before. And in the end, the laptop scored 189 FPS. And lastly, let's test Dirt 5 at 1440p and high settings. With VSync and dynamic resolution scaling off, here's how the laptop performs. And as you can see, the game is running pretty well. We are getting close to 190 FPS, but the same problem that we were facing in AC Valhalla, we are also facing here. For example, the CPU temps are higher than usual and we are seeing sudden frame drops while playing the game. So again, I think Dirt 5 too is suffering from the same problem the AC Valhalla was suffering. And in the end, the laptop scored 209 FPS despite the frame drops. And at 1200p high settings, here's how the result is. Obviously, the average FPS seems higher, but again, the CPU temps are also pretty high and we are still seeing frame drops in this case as well. So again, I think there seems to be either a driver or an optimization issue over here. And in the end, the laptop scored 217 FPS. So in conclusion, the HP Omen Max 16 seems pretty powerful and it seems to be handling powerful components like the Intel Core Ultra 9 and the RTX 5080 very well by utilizing their full power and still keeping them under control temperature wise. And in some games, there's some optimization that's needed, but I think that's something that will be solved with time. And that was it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Jatnesh Dubey and stay tuned for this laptop's full review only on Digit. And I will see you guys next time.